It's time for Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors on ESPN 1027 FM. Brought to you by Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating and Cooling and Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, with your host Brian Webb. Also starring John Kirby and Sergeant J.D. Williams from Mohawk Outdoors, Josh Honeycutt from Real Tree Outdoors. Also made possible by Swagger Bipods, the Van Store Bowling Green and Glasgow, your Can-Am headquarters, introducing Pabst Beef Jerky. Our national sponsor, Big & J Long Range Attractants. Segments in part by Rockcastle Shooting Center, The Rock, and Renegade Marine, featuring Real Trees, Michael Pendley, Timber 2 Table Wild Game Recipes. Made possible by Outback Steakhouse, Bowling Green, and all phone interviews via the Linex of Bowling Green hotline. Get ready for all things outdoors. Here's your host, Brian Webb.
I am Southern Kentucky Great Outdoors. I am your spirit of the wild, my brother. God bless America. God bless Kentucky. God bless working hard, playing hard American families in the asset column. We are blood brothers.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another installment of Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors right here on ESPN 1027. Up there in Las Vegas, you got us tuned in on 12:30 a.m. Great station up there, close to Willow Oaks, my club. John, I got to get you over there.
Yes, no doubt, man. I'm looking forward to playing. It's been a while since I've played that place.
Absolutely.
And it's been a good summer, right, for golf courses so far.
It's been a great summer.
Yeah.
We've had rain. We've had, sunshine. It's been, people have been out. People have been playing. I played this last weekend. Did you watch any of the British?
Not as much as I usually do, but I did watch Sunday.
JB hung in there, didn't he?
Yeah, man. What a shame. I know he's disappointed with how he played Sunday, but man, he's got to come away with some positives on how he played the first 3 days.
Everybody just beating him up.
And I feel pretty bad.
Was he always
for
been that way? Because I used to play with him at Campbellsville when he was 9 or 10 years old. He'd play with the team,
Yeah. Well,
and he didn't play slow at all, but he was just keeping up with us. But I just don't remember that being a thing until he got on tour.
Yeah, I don't remember him being that slow in high school. I've played a lot of golf.
You played a lot of golf with him.
I think it's one of those things that kind of can creep in over time. Sergio's a good example, right? He wasn't always like slow as molasses and wiggle it like 20 times before he made a swing.
That's
I think
true.
those kind of things just creep in over time. And while I do agree with Brooks to some degree, it is a little excessive. Man, he's getting hammered over it, and I don't think he deserves all of it.
I don't either. Somebody said like a 4-minute putt. It's like, hey, what do you walk it off?
The
whatever.
biggest pressure you could imagine too. How pressure packed it is playing in a major championship. So I'm sure that had something to do with it too. Wouldn't you think?
Sure. I'm sure it did. But hats off to Shane Lowry, man. He got in there, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a stud, man. He played great 4 days of golf.
Looks like I don't know if he's been to bed yet. It looked like he had a good time.
I always think when a European wins the Open, there's no way they're sober for the next week.
That's 100%
They're not sober
true.
anyway, right?
Right, but they're definitely not. They're mixing alcohols after the win, probably.
Their regular drinking turns into from 5 pints to 20 points. We got a bunch of points on tap tonight. First of all, we're going to get Michael Pendley on, G-Man. He's going to get us hooked up, producing the night for us. Love it when I don't have to sit back there, John, and I know everybody else does too. But Wednesday, steak, fries, beer for $10.99. Walkabout Wednesdays at our local Outback Steakhouse right there on Scottsville Road, which is sometimes a vortex of. I think there's it's a dimensional thing. Like you might show if you're there at the right time. It's so bottlenecked that you might, if you sit there at the right, you might go into another dimension or something. It's like a vortex.
That's a possibility.
Golly, I despise that road. I'll do anything I can to get around from having to get on Scottsville Road.
You and me both.
I'll go 8 miles out of the way.
What a mess! What a mess!
It's just awful, man.
And I don't know how they're gonna correct it. Is there room? You know what I mean? I think
Where are you
we're
gonna
kind
go?
of stuck with it.
We have more. I've never seen a place have more frontage roads than we've got. The old Scotts Road is a frontage road. It's just ridiculous. Josh, he probably just got off of Honeycutt, just rolling in. Probably just got off of the old Scottsville Road. You can get 2 classic entrees plus fries, draft beer or Coca-Cola if you're a Coca-Cola guy. And $10.99. You just can't beat that. Walkabout Wednesdays. Garrett's like, let's go. They got all kinds of stuff, but that to me, Walkabout Wednesdays. And it's Wednesday today, so if you're thinking about something to grub on, do that. You'll have to check and see if that's a deliverable item. I don't know. But we got all the guys in the studio. We got Michael Penley on the Line-X hotline. What's up, buddy?
How's it going, guys?
If I was doing any better, I'd have to, I don't know. Somebody charge me because that's how good I am.
Except for traffic.
Yeah, except for Scottsville Road.
Except for Scott. Yeah. When you're down, I'm going to take you on Scottsville Road just so you can see what it is, what we're talking about.
Yep.
What's going on in Michael Penley's world?
Not much. Waiting for deer season to get here. And
Yep.
went to work on a recipe the other day and went to get some Italian sausage out of the freezer and realized we didn't have any. So we made some Italian sausage. It's a great way, season's coming up and everybody's kind of cleaning out their freezers and stuff and getting ready for the new deer to come in. And stuff like sausage and jerky and all that, it's a great way to use up some of that leftover venison that you still got. And I try not to ever run out of Italian sausage because we use it in all kinds of recipes. We use it in pasta sauces and we put it on pizza. And we've got one coming up here in a week or so where we grilled it and mixed it with some cheese and some garden vegetables that we grilled off. And it's just pretty handy to have. So this is a good recipe to kind of keep in your pocket and make your sausage anytime you need it. Basically, it's just like most of our venison sausages. We like to blend about 50-50 with pork, butt, and venison to keep the finished product kind of nice and juicy, keep it from drying out too much. So this is a 5-pound recipe, and we use 2.5 pounds of pork butt and 2.5 pounds of venison. Then we added some kosher salt, some whole fennel seeds, some crushed fennel seeds, a little bit of black pepper, some paprika, some basil. I like a little red pepper flake in my sausage just for a little bit of heat. And some garlic powder and just a touch of white sugar, just kind of tone down that red pepper a little bit and balance it out. And you just basically blend all that together with a little bit of ice water. Keep it nice and cold. And anytime you're making sausages, you want to keep your grinder parts and your stuffer parts and all that cold. So I like to stick them in the freezer for, a half hour to an hour before I get ready to grind. And that kind of keeps everything cold and grinding up really well when you're working it. And that ice water helps a little bit too, kind of lubricates everything. And we just blend it all up and stuff it into pork casings, and then you can use it however you want to use Italian sausage.
Wow, you make your own sausage factory. That's good stuff.
I got this mental picture of Penley going to his refrigerator and realizing he's out of Italian sausage and DEFCON 5 and says,
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly how it was. Kids, y'all go get a pack of sausage out of the freezer. And they came back up and said, there is no Italian sausage in the freezer. So right then and there, we started thawing out some venison, thawing out some pork, and mixed up a batch. So
sirens going off.
It's quick and easy. It doesn't take long to make your homemade sausage. So it's a good thing to do.
Every hog in northern, every hog in Bardstown was hiding. Hey, is it 90-minute prep time, 20-minute cook time, medium difficulty? Yeah. I could even maybe handle this. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not hard. I mean, sausage is easy to make. You grind your meat, you blend in the spices that you want, and then you stuff it in a pork casing. You can't get much easier than that.
Well,
and pork casings, if people have never used them, sometimes they're intimidated by that. You can get them at any big sporting goods store or most butcher shops, or order them online, and they'll come in a little envelope. They're salted down. They're kind of dry. What I like to do is dump them out into a bowl. I'll pull out, for this recipe, we used about 6 feet of casing. And, I'll pull out what I need out of the salt, put it in a bowl, rinse it in cold water, let it set for a few minutes. It'll soften up. And then you can kind of thread it up over your faucet in your kitchen sink. Turn it on and let that cold water run through the casing. And it rinses the salt from the inside. And after that, it's ready to use. You just slide it on your sausage stuffer and tie one end and start cranking and filling everything up.
And that fennel seed, Michael, that's pretty common in sausage, right?
Especially Italian sausage.
Yeah.
It's that's one of the main components of a good Italian sausage. Now, I'll be honest, my wife is not a big fan of fennel seed. She says it tastes too much like licorice to her, but I like it in Italian sausage. So we use some whole fennel seed, and we take a little bit and grind it up in our spice grinder as well. We use both of them.
And that crushed red pepper, that's huge. I love spicy sausage. That's a big part of making good sausage, in my opinion.
Yeah. I like, I don't want my Italian sausage hot. I don't want it to burn when you eat it, but I do like it to have just a little bit of spice to it, and that little small amount of red pepper flake, it's just about right for 5 pounds. It's just enough to know that it's in there.
What's the difference, Michael, between or what's the ingredient that draws the line between Italian sausage and just regular sausage as we know it?
Well, with American breakfast style sausage, it's pretty high, heavy on salt and pepper and sage. A little bit of garlic, you get a little bit of basil in there, but the sage is the main component in American breakfast sausage. And then you get bratwurst, which is a whole different set of seasonings. You get some mustard powder in your bratwurst and a few other seasonings that you don't see in either one of the others. So basically it all comes down to, what part of the world that sausage recipe comes from and the spice palette that they use there. That's probably what you're going to find in their sausage.
Well, I love the way you presented it with some spaghetti, a nice sauce over it. Looks dandy. The Magic Chef Realtree meat grinder. Tell us about that thing.
Well, Magic Chef has got a whole line. They've been making kitchen appliances since the beginning of kitchen appliances, just about. And they've got an entire line of Realtree. It's kind of designed for the outdoorsman. They've got the meat grinder, which is really handy. It's small enough to keep on your kitchen counter and just use it whenever you want to make burgers or fresh ground meat, fresh ground sausage like this. It works perfect for those recipes. They've got a meat slicer that we use all the time. If we're, say, grilling a venison roast and then slicing it real thin, or if we're slicing some home-cured bacon, we'll use the meat slicer. They've got a really nice dehydrator, small portable freezer that you can take to camp with you, and all of it, is in Realtree Extra, so it looks good sitting on the counter, too.
Hey, it's, your presentation and your utensils, it looks... You're just a master chef, man. I just can't believe how good you are at this thing, and we just love having you every week, Michael. And as far as the hunting thing, we got a couple minutes left. What are you guys doing? What are you doing? Pot roast and Michaela? What are y'all doing? Right now?
Well, I finally broke down. Pot roast has been wearing on me. I don't like to start putting out any corn until usually up in August a little bit, but he's been on me pretty hard to get some, so. We went to the feed mill and picked up a little bit of corn so he could put some out in front of cameras and start taking inventory of what bucks we had around here. And he put that out last weekend, and he'll check it probably Saturday and see what's come around for the first week of actual putting out a little bit of bait for him. But he'll be checking several different camera spots and kind of honing in on the deer that he's looking for bow season.
Well, you better enjoy this, Michael, before Pot Roast gets his license, because when he does, he might not come out of the woods, you know what?
He may not.
Oh, he probably won't. It's bad enough now.
Right, yeah.
Every time I go to look for him to do something, he's outside going somewhere.
That's great, though. That's awesome, and it's just so good to hear. It puts a smile on my face hearing that.
Yeah, same here. Michael Penley, Timber to Table. Check him out, Mickey Penn, at Mickey Penn 70 on Twitter. You can follow him on Instagram, my favorite follow. Mickey Penn Eats, and you can see all this. You can go right to a Realtree, get all the recipes, do it yourself, do it at home. All you outdoorsmen and women who love to eat your harvest, I mean, nothing better than what comes from the land, and not a lot of additives, preservatives in there, are there, Mike?
Not at all, not at all. You know exactly what's going into it this way.
Amen to that, brother. Well, listen, you keep the Penleys happy, and we'll get back up with you next Wednesday, man.
Sounds good.
Timber to Table, Outback Steakhouse. Appreciate them sponsoring it. And I met the new manager over there. They've signed up for another 3 months with us, John, and I think that's awesome. And
Sweet.
Very excited. DJ Malone over there, good guy. Go in and say hello to him when you're in. Tell him you heard about it on the show. Penley, we just had, and we got coming up Michael Bean on the Renegade, and then later on, awesome guest, Bill Winky. Am I saying that right, Josh? Midwest Whitetail. Tell us a little bit about Bill.
Yeah, Bill, he is a friggin' magician when it comes to killing whitetails, and so he's going to be coming on.
Friggin' frog-gigging magician.
He's going to be shedding a little bit of knowledge for us.
I guarantee he's got a bunch. So you want to stick around for that for sure. But coming up after the break, Michael Bean, who almost went on a Matt Robertson-type run this last weekend. We'll find out all about it when we come back on Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors, ESPN Radio 1027.com.
A lot of words can describe Gravely mowers. Tough, smart, powerful, but there are two words that cut through them all. Thank you. All through July, the Vance store is saying thank you with $200 off all Gravely mowers. After 100 years, we owe it all to the hardworking lawn professionals. You are the driving force behind our story, the ones that inform our design and decisions. You are responsible for inspiring the most legendary Gravely zero-turn lineup to date. Zero turns that are tough as nails. Operator comfort beyond compare. Smarter, easier, and more intuitive controls. So go ahead, climb aboard an all-new Gravely zero-turn mower. Experience a machine built for professionals by professionals. At the end of the day, give yourself a well-deserved pat on the back. This generation of Gravely is the performance you've always wanted. All we did was listen. Gravely, driven from within. See the Vance store in Bowling Green and Glasgow. Get $200 off Gravely mowers through July.
Hey, it's Nick Noble with the Rockcastle Gun Show here. We're talking about Swagger bipods. Do you want just your average barrel rest, or do you want to shoot with some swagger? Introducing the Swagger bipods. They expand your shooting zone with Swagger, the all-terrain hunting bipod. After more than 100 years, finally shooters have a bipod with patented, flexible, hyper-extending telescoping legs that give you the agility like never before. So get rid of stiff legs and get the bipod with infinite maneuverability. Swagger, the bipod that moves.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One of the most common and life-altering injuries that we see after a car crash is a herniated disc. Often it causes a lifetime of care, injections, and surgeries. A life where the most simple enjoyments become painful struggles. But insurance companies often refuse to pay for these injuries. They say disc herniation is no big deal, but we know the truth. We know how life-altering a disc herniation can be. We've won millions of dollars for clients with disc herniation because we know how devastating these injuries really are. If you have a herniated disc after a car crash, call us. You can reach us by dialing pound law on your cell phone. That's pound 529. Pound law, that's all. If you're injured in a car crash or at work, call us. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Offices Bowling Green.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
It's time to go fishing with Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, 415 Commerce Drive, Litchfield, Kentucky, on SOKY's Great Outdoors.
Welcome back. We got him on the Linex hotline. Linex Bedliners, Roger Gino over there on Louisville Road, Porter Pike intersection. He's been on them, much like Matt Robertson. Tried to get a Matt Robertson streak started, was almost successful, and we're going to find out right now from Michael Bean just exactly what he did. What's up, man?
Not much. How's it going?
I'm good, buddy. First of all, I just want to thank you for spending the day with me up at Barron. I had a blast with you, man.
No problem. I wish we would have found some more fish than we did.
Well, there was no fish to find, John, and somehow he finds them and catches them, and I don't know how in the world he did it, because if I would have went out there by myself, I wouldn't have got a bite all day.
Sticks of dynamite.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. You needed them that day, didn't you? But it sounds like you didn't need anything, Bean, this last weekend, man. Tell us all what you got into. You fished the Big Heart tournament there, and I think our sponsor, Pabst Beef Jerky, was part of that in some way or another. I was out of town off the grid, so I didn't get to see any of that. But Pabst,
I worked that.
You worked it?
I didn't get to fish. Yeah, I didn't get to fish in that one. I was the Renegade Marine start boat for the tournament, and then I weighed fish all night. And you talk about tough when these guys are bringing in fish to the scale, and they're weighing the fish instead of casting to catch them.
Yeah, I bet that's a role reversal for you.
Yeah, the weekend before that, we fished, a couple of tournaments up there. There's actually 3 of them at the same time that we entered and won all 3 of them. But that's the last time that I've been on the lake bass fishing. We've got one coming up on Barron this Saturday. So
What kind of fish were weighed in at that big heart?
At the hard tournament, the winning bass, if I'm not mistaken, was 521. A lot of 3-pound fish weighed in, approximately about 15 fish per hour. In that big bass tournament, it pays out hourly payouts, first, second, and third. So we had about 15 fish weighed in per hour. Had around 103 boats, which tells you the fish are biting.
So you won three tournaments in a row, Michael. That is incredibly. What a feat that is. I mean, just winning one tournament is something. Winning 3 in a row, you've got to be doing so many things right. Talk to us a little bit about how you go about doing that and how mentally exhausting it is to kind of stay in the game on every cast when you're fishing tournament after tournament.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty easy because I know I've been in the game long enough that I know you can go from 0 to hero pretty quick, as they say. The next cast could be where the fish are at, or the next time, the boat stops, that could be the spot that you need. And here lately, just been fishing night tournaments, which I love to do. I love the night bite. And my favorite thing at night to do is throw a big nighttime spinnerbait. And that's pretty much what I stick with for the most part at night.
And Matt was telling us, Brian, last week. I don't know if you remember about how he was catching bass a lot shallower than folks would anticipate this time of year. Have you been seeing any of that, Michael Bean?
Yeah, if you and I was just talking with Brad Bowes earlier about this, but if you look at the thermocline on the lake and where it sets up, and I follow the Army Corps engineers on Facebook, and they post the dissolved oxygen levels, and if you look at those levels, about 9 foot, pretty good oxygen level. It gets down to 15 foot, and it drops to 5%. And a little bit lower than that, it drops to pretty much 0. So if you kind of look at that gives you kind of a starting point at the depth of those fish. A lot of those fish now are hanging around, that 10, 12-foot mark just because of the thermocline and where it sets up.
And if you're below that, if you're trying to throw a lure below that, forget it, man. It ain't gonna happen.
Dead water.
No oxygen, right? I mean, there's no oxygen.
Yeah, there's no oxygen for the fish to be there. That it's like any other sport. We want to put our bait in the highest, where we have the highest probability of catching a fish, and with the most oxygen, that's going to be that.
What's the rest of your summer shaping up to look like, Michael? I'm sure you're busy with tournaments coming up.
No, not
talk
really.
to us about that.
Like the bigger trails, the Costa Series kind of takes a break in the summer. I don't have another Costa until October, and we go to the Lake of the Ozarks. So mainly during the summer, I just fish local tournaments here on Barron. Go up there and occasionally fish a Thursday night tournament or a Saturday night tournament. But that's mainly it for summertime for me.
If you couldn't fish your home lake, Michael, or let's just eliminate Kentucky altogether, what's one of your favorite bodies of water you fished over the years?
I can answer this for him. He loves the Ozarks. He loves the Ozarks.
I do. I love the Ozarks quite a bit. The problem with the Ozarks is it's an 8-hour drive to get there. My closest lake that's not, I guess part of it is in Kentucky, so maybe cheating a little bit, is Del Hollow. I really enjoy fishing Del Hollow a lot as well. But, yeah, the Ozarks awesome. As Brian was saying, I'm pumped and excited for this tournament coming up in October, and I've already been stockpiling baits, like a kid in a candy store, shut it in his pocket, getting ready to go to that tournament.
I can't speak to the Ozarks, and I don't have a bass report, but I took my little cousin fishing yesterday, and we wore the bluegill out.
Nice.
Tell us, what are some of your top tips when it comes to taking kids fishing or introducing new people to the waters?
Right. If you're new people, especially kids, I think what's awesome is just, and the way I did it growing up is just local farm ponds or ponds where people have fish stock, where you can go catch lots of fish from the bank, bobber and worm and stuff like that. And I think that's exciting for kids, if you start them off, going out on the lake first thing and then sitting there all day and not getting a bite, they might burn them out pretty quick. But if you can find a local farm pond or a neighbor or somebody that'll let you come fish on their property, that's an awesome way to get started.
Heck, I still like it.
Absolutely. Those are great points, and it carries over into the hunting world too. If you're going to introduce a kid, something that's a little more activity like dove hunting, to keep them in the game and focus a little longer, I think helps. But that's good stuff there. And you were talking about Dale Hollow there a minute ago, Michael. We most of us know what a great lake that is. And I've had some wonderful days on Dale Hollow, but I've also just absolutely been humbled on Dale Hollow too. What makes that lake that way, do you think?
I don't know. Of course, as fishermen, we all have those days where, we're on top of the world, and then the next day we can't get a bite. And I've had several humbling experiences myself. And, sometimes we have, different styles that we like to fish. Like I mentioned earlier, I love to fish the nighttime spinnerbait. And a lot of times for me, it's feast or famine. If they're not eating that spinnerbait, I'm all the time thinking, man, this next bite, they're going to just, hammerjack that spinnerbait. And some nights it just doesn't happen, and I should, change up and maybe throw a worm or a shaky head or slow down a little bit. And I think sometimes that's what happens at Dale or any other lake that you go to, is that you're just not doing the right presentation at the time and end up not catching fish and go home with a goose egg.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It ain't going to be because it took you too long to get back to the marina, because this guy's Ranger will scald, man. I mean, it's the fastest boat I've ever been on, man.
Throw some rooster tails?
Yes, it will. I mean, and it rides like a caddy or something, nice.
So you can pretty much do the shake and bake.
We were shaking and baking.
Okay.
We were shaking and baking. We felt the need for speed.
People always, make mention about, you can't catch a fish going 70 miles an hour, and that's not really the point of it. A lot of times, for me, is that every cast, could be the moneymaker. It could be the one that makes the difference between, getting paid and not getting paid. So it's kind of a percentages game. The more casts that you can make and the more spots you can run to find those fish, the better off that you're going to be in the long run.
People that say that, they have slow boats. You know what I mean?
Like a slow golf cart.
That argument is so apples to oranges, it's not even funny, because, getting from point A to point B allows you to have more casts, and at the end of the
more
day,
time on those
it's a percentage
points
game, like Michael
banks,
said. Exactly.
I mean, it totally is, and Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, fine sponsor to Michael Bean and us. Get up there and get you one of those scalding dogs, man. They're a lot of fun to ride around in. I gotta ask you this.
Will take care of you.
I gotta selfishly ask you this. I gotta ask Michael Bean this, Josh. Now, I grew up fishing all my life, and I fished a lot of tournaments when I was younger and stuff. Now, from the minute we get there, Webb was in the water, and he was casting, right? You didn't have to tell me, hey, man, you need to throw some more, you need to cast more. I like to cast. Did I answer it for you? I think we lost him.
No, I'm here. I was asked. I never did hear the question.
All right, the question is, was I a good tournament partner? That's the question. Other than breaking off on probably a pretty decent one there at the end.
Maybe I should have acted like you lost me before I.
I think his silence was his answer.
Heck no, we need to do it again.
That's
we'll
perfect.
Maybe go catch one of these Thursday nighters or something. I'm on duty.
Dude, I can't wait. I tried to get you to go tomorrow night, and you're on duty, and that's much more important.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Don't ask him, or it might be radio silence again.
That's true. We don't need any dead air.
The Webb wasn't sitting around like eating nabs the whole time.
No, man, I wanted to win.
No,
I'm a competitor, John. You know that. You played golf with me for years.
That's right, buddy.
Maniac. I hate to lose, but I don't care if it's checkers.
He never gave up. He hung in the game, even though the bite was really tough. And, a lot of people would have rather sat down and ate a pack of nabs or something. He hung right in there with me, cast for cast.
And we fished in the rain for a good solid 45 minutes, and it was coming down hard. And I tell you what, man, watching you work that Sarahspring, I don't know what you were throwing. I guess it was a spoon of some, but watching you work that, I even talked. I fished with Dad a couple nights after that, and I was like, man, what's he? Bean was fishing this thing with a technique like I'd never seen. He's like, oh, yeah, drop bait. He's like, yeah, he's telling me all about it. I was like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. A lot of times when you're out there, you never know what conditions you're going to be faced with. And we had some tough conditions that tournament. Previously in practice, I'd found those fish in about 25 foot of water, and then from then till the tournament time, the water came up like 3 or 4 feet and really caused those fish to suspend. And a lot of them, from what I've heard from other people, went to the banks. And in my mind, I'm still stuck on fishing deep. And, we sat out there and fished deep all day long. At one point, we tried a little bit of shallow stuff to keep them on us, but it just didn't work out. And you could see them on the grass suspended in the water column. So I would try, spoon and swim bait and things like that to try to catch one. It just didn't work out for us like I had hoped.
Your repertoire is absolutely amazing to watch and fascinating. I just enjoyed it, man. One of the best fishermen I've ever been with in a boat. And I got about a minute left, Bean. I want to ask you, and John and I have had this conversation often, and he's a guru gadget guy. So really, and I had this conversation with Dad, and he's kind of coming around now. I'm like, if you're out here spending the money to fish these tournaments, and these guys got this side scan sonar and stuff, and you don't have it, I mean, you're really putting yourself in an awkward position, because these days, to stay up with the level of competition, you just almost got to have it, don't you, Michael?
Yeah, if not, once those fish move offshore, now when they get shallower than 10 feet, it doesn't come into play as much. There's always mapping and contour lines and things like that, but once those fish move offshore and they start getting 12, 13, 14, all the way to 25, 30 foot deep, if you're not using your electronics, you're already way behind the game, because, I can drive around and look and see where those fish are at. And not only that, when I'm got the trolling motor down, I'm constantly staring at my graph to see how those fish are positioned. Are they on the bottom? Are they suspended? So if you're not using your electronics, you've got a good shot of getting beat. For guys that, when I'm sitting there looking at the fish and can tell you, hey, they're 13 foot right on the bottom, and back off this spot and throw to them and catch them.
I think that goes to show you, folks that fish tournaments a lot like Michael in your own waters that you're not always super familiar with, is another perfect example of times where that side scan can really shine, can it, when you're searching for bass practicing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In the summertime ledge tournaments that I fished on Kentucky Lake, I've spent 8-hour days and only cast like once or twice, and just spend 7-8 hours at a time just idling around and marking schools of fish.
Michael Bean, everybody, fishes as good as you can find in any level. Appreciate it. Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, appreciate them. Michael, good luck in your next few tournaments, man. I can't wait to get with you.
Yep, take care. Thanks for calling.
Same here, right there. Michael Bean on the Line X Hotline. Hey, guys, we talked about it, touched on it earlier. I know I'm a huge fan. Garrett's a fan. Brad Bowles a monster fan. You can get Pabst beef jerky right now. Stores locally. Man, it's Pabst Perfection. Fueling your outdoor lifestyle. You can also go on their website, John, buy it in bulk. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, just like you buy ammo in
That's
bulk.
Right. I mean, because it's ammo. It's energy ammo when you're out there doing things like checking your trail cams. You're out there fishing. You're out whatever. We're out there mapping, Josh. It's great to pull some of that jerky out and tear it up. And nothing better. And they've also got the iconic Grippo's barbecue flavor that's unbelievable. My dad, I took some, I gave him some the other day, and he was like asking me when I'm going to get some more beef jerky. I was like, Dad, you can buy it. You have a job.
You're in this year Christmas presents from your dad.
Yeah, that's what he's getting. I'll call Jim and those guys and say, hey, man, I got to get something for Dad. But it's high protein, low carb, all natural, keto friendly, and low fat. Get it today. Pabst beef jerky, fueling your outdoor lifestyle. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. We're going to save the Rock Castle Hunting Center Shooting Center hunting segment for the 5:45 because we got Bill Wink on. But we'll come back and chat with Josh Honeycutt and John Kirby when we come back here on Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio1027.com.
Rock the Boat 2019 with Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency at Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center. If boat dealerships were candidates, Renegade Marine's platform would sound like this. You deserve family time on a Regency. You have the right to a Nitro bass boat. Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center wants to see you on the water with a smile and a Sun Tracker. Ask not what your old boat needs for repair. Get a new pontoon with time to spare. Rock the boat with Sun Tracker, Regency, and Nitro at Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center. 415 Commerce Drive in Litchfield. Online at renegademarine.net.
Join the Bowling Green Hot Rods every Friday for Fireworks Friday, sponsored by Norton Children's Hospital. Following every Friday night game, the Hot Rods will light up the sky with a fireworks display. Visit bghotrods.com for more information. Hot Rods Baseball. Fantastic. Your Midwest League champion Bowling Green Hot Rods are back for 2019. Come check out the all-new 360 concourse, splash zone, scoreboard, and much more. Get your tickets at bghotrods.com or by calling 901-2121. Hot Rods Baseball, fantastic.
Finally done. Oh, I need a steak right now.
No worries, mate. Outback Steakhouse at Bowling Green now delivers.
What? Who said that? I can have Outback at home?
Just sit back, relax, put an order in at Outback.com, and they'll bring you Aussie favourites right to your door.
Thank you, oh great spirit of the Outback.
What? Oh, no, mate. I'm just a figment of your imagination. And remember to take your shoes off at the door. Got grass stains everywhere last time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Outback Steakhouse at Bowling Green delivers. Start your order right now at Outback.com.
In stores now, Pabst Grippo's Beef Jerky. We have taken the great Pabst Beef Jerky and married it with the iconic Grippo's barbecue seasoning. This is a marriage made in beef jerky heaven. The thin cut of Pabst Beef Jerky is dusted to perfection with Grippo's seasoning. Once you try it, you will know no other beef jerky compares. So the next time you're headed on a road trip to the lake or your favorite golf course, be sure to have Pabst Beef Jerky fueling your outdoor lifestyle. PabstJerky.com. Ask for us at your local store.
Although hunting to most of us is much more than just harvesting animals, why not better your deer herd's health with Big & J Long Range Attractant? Big & J is highly digestible, high in protein, and isn't full of preservatives. With Big & J Long Range Attractants, you're not only exploiting one of the few weaknesses whitetails have, their stomachs, but you're maximizing antler growth, improving overall herd health, and pulling deer from your neighbor's property. So whether your goals are to fill the freezer, kill mature bucks, or both, Big & J Long Range Attractants will stack the odds in your favor, all the while making your deer herd bigger and healthier.
Garrett, setting the mood there. Welcome back. Southern Kentucky's great outdoors. Louisville band, my morning jacket. I'm going to have to look them up, folks. We got Josh Honeycutt, Realtree Outdoors, realtreeoutdoors.com. And then we've got John Kirby, man of many talents. And they're going to talk a little bit about the myths of the nocturnal buck, because that's what Mr. Bill Winke is going to talk about from Midwest Whitetail, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a topic that gets talked about every year. And if you ask me, it's not a thing.
It's a polarizing topic, too, isn't it, Josh? Like, I hear a lot of people that are just diehard that there is such a thing, that bucks will just completely turn nocturnal, when in fact, I personally don't believe that. I think it's a number of other variables that are coming into play here that maybe lead folks to believe that buck's nocturnal.
Yeah, you hear it every year. Somebody will end up, it's inevitable. Somebody at some point is going to say, yeah, I've got a ton of picture of that guy, but he's, all at night.
Exactly.
He's nocturnal. Won't be killing that big fella. Insert sigh here.
And in reality, there's any number of things that could be going on to cause you to think that buck's nocturnal. And you want to talk about a couple now?
Yeah, personally, just to lead off with, I think that there, again, as we've mentioned, there's really no such thing as a nocturnal buck. Every deer moves in daylight, at least to a small degree.
Sure. Yeah, and I think this ties in with the October lull a little bit and the myth of the October lull. There's some parallels there for sure. And right off the bat, one of the reasons that maybe somebody thinks that their buck is nocturnal, because you're only getting nighttime pictures, is that deer could very well be on a food source quite some ways from your trail cameras, and he's just not getting there till night. That happens a lot.
Yeah, it's important to remember that deer movement is relative, especially in relation to your trail cameras and your stand locations even. It's greatly influenced by habitat pressure, food sources, water sources, bedding cover, and a slew of other factors. So there's a lot of factors that play into whether or not a deer appears to be nocturnal, even though he really isn't.
Yep. What are some other factors you got there, Josh, that might lead folks to believe that they're working with a nocturnal deer?
There's three scenarios that can make a buck seem as if he's nocturnal when he really isn't. The first is the fact that you're simply not close enough to that buck's bed. If you're not close enough to that deer's core area, he's not going to make it to your stand location or your cameras until after dark anyway. So that can make him appear nocturnal because he's hitting your cameras every afternoon, 2 or 3 hours after dark, but he just might be too far away to get there in daylight.
Exactly. We only know what we know as hunters, and our trail cameras can't be everywhere all the time. And like Josh is saying, just because that deer is just showing up at night doesn't mean he's not moving somewhere else during the day, because he is.
Yeah, the fix to that is to get closer to his bed. And, every buck is different. I'm not going to sit here and say that every buck moves 300 yards from his bed of an afternoon, because they don't. Some bucks will only move 50 or 60 yards from his bed of an afternoon in daylight. But guess what? If he moves 50 or 60 yards or 100 yards from his bed, he's not nocturnal.
Exactly.
A nocturnal deer, by definition, does not leave his bed or the immediate vicinity of his bed within daylight hours. And 99.9999% of your bucks aren't going to be classified as nocturnal.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. What else you got?
The second possibility is that you aren't on a preferred travel route. You could be a few yards this way or a few yards that way and be on a different trail, and a buck is simply just not passing along the trail that you either have your stand or camera on.
Exactly.
And he may swing back through there later on that day or later on that night after dark, and he appears to be nocturnal, but he's really just using a trail that's down the ridge a little bit.
And this is so much like the October lull, Josh. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Folks see these deer on a summer feeding pattern, and all of a sudden they transition to another food source, and they don't make that transition with them, and all of a sudden they think, where did my deer go? Oh, they're just moving at night. There are a lot of parallels between the two, I think.
Yeah, and it's not good enough just knowing where he's bedding or just knowing where he's feeding. It's not even good enough to know where he's bedding and feeding. You got to know where he's bedding, where he's feeding, and how he's getting between the two.
Exactly.
Where he's traveling
said.
between the bed and the food.
Well said.
And the last possibility is that the buck seems to be nocturnal because you're just not. How do I phrase this? You're not where you need to be. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. That's something that we're going to be talking about with Bill. And it kind of sounds like the second option there, but it's different. And we're going to be talking about that with Bill here momentarily.
Good deal. And there's some other factors that could come into play, too. I think that those are the main ones. Maybe some other ones that are possibilities is, if you're hunting an area, overhunting an area, let's say, and kind of really putting the pressure on that specific stand site or that specific area, these deer, you don't have to physically bump a deer for them to make your presence known, right? And these deer are smart, especially these old deer. If they're not smart, they end up bedding down in freezers for the rest of their life, right? So, just something to think about. There's a lot of reasons why said deer could seemingly turn nocturnal.
Absolutely. I know we got a couple minutes here before Bill comes on, so I will talk a little bit more about that third option I was talking about. And I guess, in that instance, the third option and reason why you think that there might be nocturnal is because he's the closest thing that there is to a nocturnal buck. He might be that deer that only moves 50, 60, 70, 80 yards from his bed in daylight hours, and if that's the type of deer that you're dealing with, and it, you simply got to get close to his bed. And a lot of times you've got to get within 100 yards of that buck's bed, not the bedding area, but the bed itself to kill that deer. Especially if he's only making it 50, 60, 70 yards, and you know which direction he's moving in when he gets up, if you get within that 100-yard marker, he's probably going to get within that 30 to 40 yard kill range that you need to be within to slip an arrow in that rib cage.
Absolutely.
Guys, let's take a break here. I'm just foaming at the mouth to listen to this conversation. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back with the Rockcastle Shooting Center hunting segment right here on SOKY's Great Outdoors featuring Bill Winke. Don't go anywhere. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors, ESPN 102.7.
Man, what happened to your truck? Well, got myself a prize 10-point buck, and well, you can see where it was laying.
Nice bloodstain, dude. You should have seen Linex of Bowling Green for a spray-in liner.
For whatever you get into, trust Linex of Bowling Green with the largest auto aftermarket franchise in the nation. Pro installation of spray and bed liners, B&W gooseneck hitches, vent visors, bug shields, step bars, running boards, toolboxes, and WeatherTech floor mats. Linex at BowlingGreen.com. Stop by 3351 Louisville Road at the Porter Pike and Plum Spring intersection.
This is Nate from Rockcastle Shooting Center. Did you know that one of the premier shooting ranges in the world is right here in South Central Kentucky? Rockcastle Shooting Center has something for everyone's recreational shooting enjoyment. From 3D archery to our brand new sporting clays course, handgun ranges full of steel to targets out to a mile. There's no better place to get some trigger time than Rockcastle Shooting Center. Non-members are welcome, and memberships start at $150 per year. We offer a fantastic range of firearms training and education opportunities from the most basic to the most advanced. Come see us, exit 48 on I-65, Park City, Kentucky. Visit rockcastleshootingcenter.com.
The SOKY Fair is presented each year by the Bowling Green JCs. The fair is their largest fundraiser, and proceeds are used to put on the Bowling Green Christmas Parade, annual fall festival for underprivileged children, a day with Santa that provides Christmas for over 50 needy children in our community, and much, much more. Thank you for your contribution and attendance to this year's fair. For volunteer opportunities, visit JC's Bowling Green, Kentucky on Facebook.
Rock the Boat 2019 with Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency at Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center. If boat dealerships were candidates, Renegade Marine's platform would sound like this. You deserve family time on a Regency. You have the right to a Nitro bass boat. Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center wants to see you on the water with a smile and a Sun Tracker. That's not what your old boat needs for repair. Get a new pontoon with time to spare. Rock the Boat with Sun Tracker, Regency, and Nitro at Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center. 415 Commerce Drive in Litchfield. Online at renegademarine.net.
This is Nate from Rock Castle Shooting Center. Did you know that one of the premier shooting ranges in the world is right here in South Central Kentucky? Rock Castle Shooting Center has something for everyone's recreational shooting enjoyment. From 3D archery to our brand new sporting clays course, handgun ranges full of steel to targets out to a mile. There's no better place to get some trigger time than Rock Castle Shooting Center. Non-members are welcome, and memberships start at $150 per year. We offer a fantastic range of firearms training and education opportunities from the most basic to the most advanced. Come see us, exit 48 on I-65, Park City, Kentucky. Visit rockcastleshootingcenter.com.
When Poston Electronics opened in Bowling Green back in 1974, it sounded more like this.
Turn it up, man!
Now Poston is as legendary as the artists Southern Kentuckians hummed through the speakers they've bought there for the last 45 years. Poston is everything audio with top brands like JP Audio and Alpine. From home theaters, boats, motorcycles, side-by-sides, custom work, installation, service, or sales, Poston still has the sound. Turn it up, man. Poston Electronics, across from Firestone on Broadway Avenue.
The hunting in East Beverly Hills getting sorry every day. Me and Duke went as far back in the brush as you could go. The only thing we flushed out was a couple of real estate agents.
It's time to do some hunting on SOKY's Great Outdoors, brought to you by Rock Castle Shooting Center at Park Mammoth Resort, 22850 Louisville Road in Park City, Kentucky.
Welcome back, everybody. So excited about our next guest. He's an Iowa Hawkeye. And Bill Winkle, Bill Winke is his name. I've said that right all day, and then I screwed it up. Bill Winke is his name. He's been writing for hunting magazines for over 25 years, specializes in articles about hunting strategy, primarily whitetail deer, and assembling, tuning, and shooting your archery equipment, known best for Midwest whitetail. Welcome to the Line X Hotline, and welcome to the show, Bill. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bill, you know, we've been talking a little bit today about nocturnal bucks. What is your perception, perspective, and opinion when it comes to the topic of nocturnal deer, and how do you approach what some might refer to as a nocturnal buck?
Well, I think the interesting part is some bucks are naturally nocturnal, and I think some become nocturnal from hunting pressure, because even in places where the hunting pressure is light, you'll still have some that don't move much during the day. So you can't just automatically assume because if there's a limited amount of hunting pressure that the deer are going to be moving during the day, because that's not true. Physiologically, there is a pretty high percentage of the herd that tends to be nocturnal anyway, at least during certain ages. So you're kind of dealing with individuals, in my opinion, on this. So you're using trail cameras or your personal experiences in the field, and you're trying to find those bucks that have the traits, the behavior traits that have them moving during the day. So some of them do and some of them don't. You just have to identify the ones that move during the day and then focus on those, because the ones that don't move during the day, they may eventually change their behavior, but there's no point in spending a lot of time hunting those deer right now until that behavior changes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different opinions on that topic. So what do you do whenever it comes to trying to differentiate between obviously you're going to have photos of a deer that's in daylight if he's moving far from his bed, but how do you go about pinpointing a deer that's killable, so to speak, that's more apt to move in daylight hours, and how do you formulate a game plan around said deer?
Well, I think they tend to maintain that behavior more or less through their life. That's not to say that at certain ages bucks aren't tend to be more nocturnal. I feel like at ages 4 and 5 especially, those are the two
years when a buck is most nocturnal. Not to say, again, that he couldn't be, showing those same traits earlier. But typically, if you have the opportunity to hunt older deer, the older they get, it just seems like they start moving more in the day again, which is kind of against what most people think. But the young bucks move during the day quite a bit. The middle-aged bucks tend to be more nocturnal, and then the really older ones tend to be more daylight active again. And I don't think there's any way to know ahead of time, short of actually putting the trail cameras out and finding those deer that are showing daylight activity to predict which ones they're going to be. Obviously, if you got really old deer, you can kind of lean toward that, but otherwise it just comes down to the traits and the personality of each individual buck.
Hey, Bill, John Kirby, I want to say, first off, thanks for spending your time with us. It's a pleasure. Kind of along those same lines, what's your viewpoint on deer? We've probably all had experiences with bucks that we've deemed one mistake a year bucks, or bucks that make very few mistakes. Are those the kind of deer that you're going to spend a great deal of time trying to close that distance, or will you generally focus on another deer?
Yeah, I generally would look for deer that are easier to kill.
Yeah.
Especially with the bow. With a gun during the late season on a food source, you can get pretty much any deer you want, even if it gets cold enough.
Right.
Especially here in the Midwest. So that's not really the factor. As a bow hunter, the deer has to be moving a lot more naturally, and he has to be moving in a predictable enough way that you can get within 30 yards of him. So that's a pretty rare deal, with an older deer or a quote-unquote trophy deer to find those characteristics. So there's no point in hunting one that's just borderline, or you think, you hope you can maybe, figure this deer out, or you can maybe at some point get him to move during the day. You can spend a lot of time in a whole season chasing after deer like that and never kill anything. So
sure,
it just isn't that much fun. And I've done it a number of times on bucks that really big deer that I kind of wish later that I just had forgotten about them for another year. But so generally, I'm not going to spend my time on those bucks. I'm going to wait. The only exception to that rule is when there's a cold front coming through. If you've got a really good deer that, say, borderline, he's moving maybe an hour after legal shooting time or an hour before or whatever, he's pretty close to legal time in the area where you're hunting him. If you have that cold front come through, there's a lot better chance that on that day when that cold front comes through, that he will move more during the day. Other than that, I just wait and hunt other deer, keep an eye on that buck, and hope he changes his behavior.
Yep. So there are a lot of different mentalities and approaches out there. Some people, there are a lot of hunters that I've talked to out there who will kind of push the envelope, and they'll try to get close to that deer's bed if that deer, if they know that deer isn't moving very far in daylight. What is the closest? I know it's hard to answer this, and every situation is going to be different depending on terrain and all kinds of factors. But generally speaking, what is the closest that you will get to a buck's bed whenever you're setting up for an evening hunt?
I would say if it's windy enough and there's decent cover at ground level, 100 yards is definitely realistic. If it's really still out and the cover that you're hunting in is really open, then it's going to have to be a lot further than that. I mean, it could be 200 yards. It really is kind of situation dependent. I think, like I said, I wouldn't be the least bit worried about sneaking into a spot 100 yards of a buck that I knew was bedded in a certain area if I knew he couldn't see me. So that's kind of the. I mean, you can maybe get inside of that. We've done it. You'd be surprised what you can get away with when they're in their beds because they feel like everything is safe. They're not really that watchful and observant and wary when they're in their beds. Everybody thinks they're on red alert the whole time, but they really aren't. When they're bedded, they seem to be, almost, I won't say sleepy, but they just have lost that edge a lot of times. So you can get away with more, but 100 yards is probably a pretty good number.
In that situation, Bill, when if you're gonna be a little aggressive and make your move and try to ease in on his bed, what's generally your tactic? Are you going to go in and do a hanging hunt? Are you going to slip in with a climber? What's kind of your go-to method there?
Well, I think I would have a hard time sneaking in that close quietly enough when the deer is in his bed, unless the stand is already there. I wouldn't try to get that close and have to hang a stand.
Yeah.
I think there's too much noise and there's too much movement. you can, like I said, you can get away with murder if you're climbing up and down the backside of the tree trunk and the deer's bedded and there's a little bit of wind. I mean, shoot, you could probably climb into a stand. I've done it before. I've climbed out of tree stands with bucks bedded 15 yards away and snuck out just for fun. And it was a 2-year-old deer in that case, but it was just fun to do it. And there was even 2 of us. It was a cameraman and myself, and we both got out of there with that deer, just right there. But it was windy, and he was facing the other direction, and there was a little bit of brush at ground level. So once we stayed on the back of the tree, got down and got out, and he never knew we were there. But so when they're bedded, you can get away with more, but I don't think you can make a bunch of noise and move around a bunch, or they're going to catch you. So it's tough to hunt them in their bedding areas. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, in my opinion, you just don't do it unless it's a last resort. Maybe it's a public land strategy because you're feeling the pressure of other hunters in the area, and you have to be a little bit more aggressive. But if you've got the whole season and you're on private land where those deer aren't getting pushed around much, it's kind of stepping up to the plate and swinging as hard as you can.
Right. Yeah.
You're better off in that case, I think, to play a little bit more conservatively and live to fight another day. Keep that deer there.
And that's a great point. Knowing when and when not to be aggressive is one of the key aspects of being a good deer hunter, especially being a good big buck killer, and that's something that you're certainly good at and have done for many, many years. When it comes to your typical setup, and I think this is the last question we'll have time to ask you, or one of the last, but you said you don't push in on those beds too often. Are you focusing more on staging areas, or are you backing off toward more major food sources?
I think in the evenings, my favorite tree stand locations are in staging areas. And people don't know what those are, and I never knew what they were either until I started to actually create them. Then it became a game changer for me for evening hunting. Basically, for me, any little small opening that's between where the deer bed and where the deer feed can become a staging area. And ideally, in one of those, you sweeten the pot a little bit by cleaning it out and planting maybe clover or something in that little opening. And this is the first place that those deer are going to go to when they get out of their bed in the evenings, and it's the last place that they're going to go to before they go to their beds in the morning. So they're places where you can catch them on their feet in daylight. Generally, because of the small size of these little plots and these little openings, you get a close-range bow shot, and then the deer file past you as you get closer to dark, and they move out into those bigger feeding areas. Then you can sneak out without bumping the deer. So those are, like I said, that's the best thing that I've found for evening hunting. And the nice thing is you can make those spots. You don't have to try to figure out where they're staging, because I never could figure that out prior to actually creating these areas.
Awesome. Bill, you said something, too, I want to highlight real quick. You said just for fun, your cameraman and yourself tried to kind of sneak out with a deer bedded in very close proximity. And I think that's a good point. As hunters, we learn from stuff like that. I'm sure that was a very big learning moment for you, kind of learning what you could and couldn't get by with. And I think that's a huge key for hunters to continue to evolve and learn from their mistakes, to do things like that. I'm not advocating to go out and pressure your deer by any means, but that just struck me, and I just wanted to say that.
I think that the more creative you can be, the textbook is important for the fundamentals, but after that, try to be creative and do stuff that, that maybe is a little outside the box, and just see what happens. Because if all you do is follow the rules or follow the quote-unquote, normal procedure on everything, you're not going to learn nearly as much as you will if you start experimenting and playing with different ideas. And one of the areas that I've had the most fun being creative is trying to match human activity getting to and from tree stands. Because I'm in farm country, so there's farmers out there all the time doing stuff. If you can figure out what have the deer already accepted as non-threatening, normal human behavior, and how can I take advantage of that, to sneak into spots, it's pretty fun, because you find yourself getting away with some things that you never thought you could. That makes it real interesting. So just don't be afraid to be creative and experiment a little bit with things that are a little bit outside the box.
Absolutely. That's such a great point, Bill. And, hey, listen, we run out of time, but we want to thank you so much for coming in and spending your time with us here on SOKY's Great Outdoors, and we'd love to have you back again soon.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, and you guys have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Bill. Thanks, folks. We'll be back next Wednesday. SOKY's Great Outdoors, 102.7.